and the Thunder are going to be your /1 seed in the Western Conference after they whooped up on the Dallas Mavericks, who are not playing any of their starters. They won 135-86. Yeah. And here is a look at your Western Conference playoff standings after the last day of the regular season. Thunder, the 1 seed. Nuggets in the 2 spot. T-Wolves, number 3. The Suns at the 6th seed. Then the Pelicans didn't take care of business on Sunday, so they're going to be in the play-in. And again, the Thunder hold the tiebreaker over the Nuggets. That's why they are the 1 seed. They won the season series 3-1. Time now to welcome in CBS Sports NBA writer and insider Bill Reiter. And after 82 games, Bill, the young and fun Thunder are your #1 seed in the West. What do you make of the way they have carried themselves as a team to get to this point when the season began, we probably did not expect this type of result?
I certainly didn't, Chris. I didn't expect day 82 or game 82 for every team to be so thrilling. What a final day of the regular season. Look, there's a lot of places you can give credit to. The coach might be coach of the year, the star player. Probably not going to be the MVP, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be top 2 or 3. But can we just give some flowers to Sam Presti, who runs basketball operations, who did a long-term rebuild mode where he collected so many draft picks, a lot of us, and I'll put myself in that group, doubted he'd ever use them, wasn't sure he knew what he was doing. Were we wrong? Frankly, a lot of his colleagues in the NBA were wrong behind the scenes. What a remarkable job he has done very quickly, taking this young core, finding the right coach, finding the right players, and not just building a team that's the best in the Western Conference, but still has almost 30 first-round picks in the years ahead. They are legit now, and they're going to be legit, Chris, for a really, really long time.
Yeah, it's amazing what he's done. And like you said, a lot of people did not expect that or didn't see his madness working out, but clearly it did. Now, the Suns, meanwhile, they avoid the 7th seed by tattooing the Wolves on the road. So they're going to face, guess who? Minnesota in the 3 versus 6 matchup. What do you like about these two teams? Because it got a little spicy there between Bradley Beal and Anthony Edwards there in that first half.
Yeah, it's deja vu all over again, isn't it, in a couple of these situations. So I love this. Full disclosure, Chris, I know I'm supposed to give you analysis that is journalistic and has no rooting interest, but over on the podcast I do, Beyond the Arc, I've got a $1,000 dinner riding on the outcome of this series that I made 2 months ago with one of my co-hosts, John Gonzalez. I'm on the Suns. We made a decision that they played each other a while ago. I'm on Phoenix. He's on the Timberwolves. I actually like the Suns' chances. We know they don't have a lot of depth. We know they're reliant on 3 stars, but Bradley Beal has really started to find his groove the last 5 or 6 games. Had a great game in this particular win. And I still think this Timberwolves team, they're amazing. I'm an Anthony Edwards fan. I'm a believer. There's just 2 things that make me nervous, and I think at least narrows the gap between the 3 seed and the 6 seed here. And obviously, the T-Wolves could have been the 1 seed. One is the fact that they're young, largely young, and certainly inexperienced in playoff basketball. That is significant when you get to this part of the season. And the other reality is, as great as Ant has been, and the fact that Karl Anthony Towns, Chris, as you know, is back, this is still a team that's been inconsistent and really middle of the road, 16th, 17th in offensive rating almost throughout the course of the entire year. And that lack of balance often catches up to teams as well in the playoffs. So I think it's a really tough matchup for Minnesota. Of course, they can win this series. I know the Suns have been down and out this year at times compared to our expectations, but they sneak and sort of earn their way into that 6th seed. And I think Phoenix has a chance to be competitive in this series, maybe win this series. This is going to be a hard one for Minnesota.
I definitely see this series going 6 or 7, the way these two teams stack up against each other. But we know when it comes to KD, Bill, there's always pressure looming, right? Is he going to leave? Is he going to ask for another trade? And we saw different times where they struggled to find their gear, even after the trades, right? Royce O'Neal as one of them. How much pressure is on Phoenix right now to get this series win?
It's a great question. I have a lot of sources in that organization, and I can tell you that the pressure is absolutely massive. They have a new owner. We've talked about him quite a bit in the last year, in the last 12 months, and they mortgaged, a lot like the Clippers, they mortgaged their entire future to bring in, at different times, but still, Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal and pair those two players with Devin Booker. Now, there are some pieces that have worked out that they've been able to add some depth. Grayson Allen, not everybody loves him, including Ashley Nicole Moss on my podcast, but he's been an effective player. I can go through the lineup a little bit and the roster a little bit, but really it's about these three guys. And the idea, Chris, was that they were going to win now, not be the 6th seed, not make the second round. The expectation the entire season in Phoenix is that they are going to be a championship contender. And if they don't do that, because they don't have a lot of picks in the years ahead, because they are locked into these guys, because Bradley Beal was able to arrive from DC with his no trade clause, this is the team that you're going to have. If it doesn't work now, it just gets harder over the next few years to see the window getting any wider than this moment right here as we get ready for the playoffs and the play-in.
Yeah, so the lights are going to be extremely bright, and we'll see how Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant handle the spotlight. Now, the Nuggets, they took care of business, on Sunday. They're the 2 seed, and they're going to face Pelicans or the Lakers. For me, it doesn't really matter which team they face in the first round. How do you see it?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it doesn't matter, I think, who they play in most playoff series if they can be healthy. They are the clear favorite, and I put them on the same level or a higher level than people have the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference. They are just as good, but they are battle-tested. But it is a nice draw. I mean, finishing in the 2 spot is kind of the sweet spot here. They avoid some of the teams that might get some momentum down the road. We talked about the Timberwolves. There's a chance, like we talked about, that Phoenix could take Minnesota down, so that's a pretty easy team that maybe you avoid if you get deep into the playoffs, just on the verge of a finals. Look, the Lakers obviously can play at a high level. We saw them make a run last year, and I know the Pelicans just fell into the play-in, but they've had stretches this season where they've looked really dangerous and really good. I think that just speaks to how ridiculously loaded and how much parity there is in the NBA, and particularly in the Western Conference. But I'm with you. Nobody wants to play the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets have home court advantage throughout their run in the Western Conference, except maybe a conference finals. Their road, there's no easy roads, but I think is easier than the 1 seed even and some of the other seeds that are out there. I think they're sitting pretty. I think they're the team to beat. And if I'm a Nuggets fan, I'm feeling pretty good about life right now.
Yeah, because in this day and age, with the way they're playing, the seeding doesn't matter. It's like when we saw LeBron in his heyday with the Cavs. You can be the 4 seed. We're still going to the finals, and I think that's what is expected for the Nuggets. Now, speaking of the Lakers, they went from having to play 2 playing games as a 9 or 10 to just 1. And Anthony Davis, he was shaken up in that game against the Pelicans, but he is expected to be healthy for that series. How do you see that matchup shaking out? Do you expect the Pelicans to come back with some fight? Because I think a lot of people were expecting them to be ready for this game with a chance to get out of that play-in.
It's a great question. It's really interesting, and this is a conversation we have a lot on the podcast, and it just sort of depends how you view the NBA. There's probably no wrong answer or right answer. There's just different philosophies. And I've already mentioned once talking to you, Chris, I really believe the playoff experience, because this is what GMs and scouts and players just will tell you again and again and again when you talk to them. I think playoff experience matters. I think having gone through those battles matter. I think some of these young teams and teams that aren't experienced, that are really talented in the East and the West, that don't have that playoff experience are going to struggle. I know it's 1 game, but I think that's what you saw in this game. Whatever the issues, and they are there with the Lakers, obviously LeBron James has a little experience, postseason success. So now does Anthony Davis, having played with this Lakers team. And this is a Pelican squad, no playoff experience, no experience for Zion. Maybe C.J. McCollum to a certain degree when he was in Portland. They made a run to the conference finals in those years with Damian Lillard. But really the star player and the majority of players in New Orleans aren't used to the playoffs. And I think that is a huge advantage for the Lakers. Is New Orleans good enough to beat the Lakers? Yes, they are. Another single game? Absolutely. But I think in 1 game, whether the margins are really thin and anything can happen, I like the Lakers if they're healthy, if AD's okay, presumably, hopefully he will be, to have that experience really be one of the deciding factors like we saw in this game tonight.
Oh, and by the way, they also have LeBron James, and even though, he's a grandpa of the association, he's still playing like a top 10, top 15 player. Like, what's at stake for him? Because he's achieved so much, but I know he wants to get another ring for the Lakers franchise.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's either the best player of all time. I think that he is, and I say that reluctantly as a kid who grew up around and in the Chicago suburbs area.
How dare you, Bill? How dare you?
I think it's, I don't want it to be true, man. I don't want it to be true. But even if he's not, he's 2, right? Or if you want to go cream, he's 3. point being, he's had an amazing career. He has defined basketball for an era. The things that he's done, I'm not going to give you the resume. You know the resume. It's amazing. And even though this sounds kind of cheesy, it's true. LeBron loves the game. You can see this on his podcast that he does with JJ Redick. He actually loves and is obsessed with the game. And he knows that the sands are falling through the hourglass for him pretty quickly, that there's not much time left. And so I think for him, it's not about legacy. It's about, to a degree, he'd love to add another ring and get one more than a guy named Steph Curry. But I also just think there aren't many times left to have a window. He knows that. And he, by the way, like the Warriors, like the Heat, like a lot of playing teams this year, he really believes, just talking to folks around him and in that Lakers organization, if they get into the playoffs, if they're in a best-of-7 series, right or wrong, and they're probably wrong, they think they can beat anybody and everybody. And so for him, yeah, let's add a ring, I think, is his thinking. But he knows he doesn't have many more days like this one, and I think he wants to take advantage of every opportunity at postseason basketball.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be playing like there is no tomorrow for sure in those playing games. Now, the Warriors, they're facing the Kings and they're playing a rematch of last season series, or last playoff series. I don't think anybody's really surprised the Warriors are there, but more so the Kings based on how they finished last year. How do you see the Kings and the Warriors matching up?
Not well for the Kings. And I feel, look, I'm not sure how much people who don't pay attention all the time know how important Malik Monk was to this Kings team. And Kevin Huerter's also gone down. So this is a severely injured Kings team. Their record was on track to be not that different. It's not that different from last year. Just the West is so much better than it was last season. And even though the Warriors are where they are and have been underwhelming and have been disappointing, if you go back to the All-Star break, hell, if you go back further than that, Chris, if you go back to when Draymond Green at the end of January got reinserted into the starting lineup, that's a huge sample size. This is a Warriors team that's top 10 offensive rating, top 10 in defensive rating, top 5 in net rating. The defense is really what has changed though with Draymond's return. They found the rotation they like with Kuminga and Wiggins playing alongside Draymond. Klay Thompson's kind of found his form again. We know Steph is still Steph. Are these the Warriors of 2 or 3 years ago? No, of course not. They're not the 73-win Warriors. They're not the Durant Warriors. But it's a really good basketball team, and they think, just like the Lakers, now they got to win 2 games, that if they can beat the Kings and beat whoever doesn't win that first playing game, that they've got a shot, whoever they're playing. So it's one game. Certainly Sacramento can win it, but there's this little brother mentality the Kings have against the Warriors that they haven't overcome. They're missing key players, especially Monk, and this is a Warriors team that's playing better basketball than you'd think, because the hole that Draymond dug them in by getting suspended a couple times has obscured how good they've been when he's been around. It's one game, anything can happen, but I like the Warriors, and if the Warriors can get to a best-of-7 series against the Thunder, I think that's a long ways from here. I think that's an interesting series, too.
Oh, that'd be entertaining. I just hope Draymond does not stomp Domantas Sabonis' chest. That's all I want. Just get rid of that, and then they should be all right. Bill Reiter, thanks so much, man. And make sure to tune in to the Beyond the Arc podcast with Bill Reiter, John Gonzalez, and Ashley Nicole Moss. The terrific trio dissect the latest storylines and news in the NBA 5 days a week. So download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.